Good afternoon. Happy Thursday, everyone. Jessie, how are we doing today? What are the
I am
vibes?
doing great. Okay, I'm doing great. However, the vibes are a tad, I don't want to say stressed, but tense. I'm flying out to Phoenix today. So busy, busy day over here. But I am so excited for championship weekend. I can't believe it's already here. Like, I can't believe that I'm already packing my bags to go to Phoenix. It's truly wild. So a little crazy of a day, but thankful for every, twist and turn that this day is throwing me. How's your Thursday going?
It is, it's going. I am trying to make it through the end of the motorsports season, quote unquote, supposedly. Um, and we're just hanging in there. We got a couple more weeks. We are also, oh geez. Okay. We are dealing, okay, so sometimes the stream just like can't get its stuff together for some reason, whether it's camera issues or
Can
streaming
relate.
broadcast issues. I I deeply apologize for my camera this afternoon. I have a two PC setup. I don't know if chat wants to get nerdy with me. We got a two PC setup going
Ooh, talk
for
nerdy
my
to me, please.
main gaming setup. I have RTX 3080. But for my streaming setup, I think I have a 2070 Super. I'm pretty sure that's what I had. But I think I need to put the 3080 in the streaming PC and then my gaming PC get the 4000 series. I just like can't, it's just something's going on where like can't handle it anymore and I gotta upgrade and swap down. But if anyone in the chat has any understanding of what's going on with my OBS or Streamlabs, by all means we would appreciate it. But my camera will, just as right now, just have a good time and freeze up at the worst possible moment and make me look awful. So we're just hanging in there for the technical issues. I know Jessie has an Ethernet cable running through her house to make sure
I
it's all
do.
crisp and
150 feet, baby. 150 feet of high speed internet just making its way down my stairway right now. It is just the beautiful addition that everyone wants to their interior design. Now, I will say, while we're on the topic of whatever it was that Ash just laid out there, I you lost me at two PCs. I was like, okay, I'm following you, and then you lost me there. But Ash does have the option of what is yours? Nicely nailed to the ceiling Ethernet cable. So
yes.
it's really all about how you want to choose to incorporate your Ethernet cable into your interior design. There's a lot of different ways. So follow us for more interior design tips, not tech tips though, clearly, because we're struggling in that realm today. But that's okay. Clearly, everything you laid out, there's a lot going on in regards to even getting this stream out. So we have all of the grace in the world for you, Ash. We can hear you just fine too, which is really all that
Which is
matters.
great.
So
I like how you said incorporate into your design. Yeah, I do have an Ethernet cable coming from my living room, but nailed into the ceiling, running down the stairs to my basement, ceiling of my basement, down the wall to my PC. It was on the floor for a
mm,
very long time when we first moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, and I kept tripping over it. So I was like, we're gonna put this on the ceiling. It's actually pretty hard to like. Yeah, if you don't notice it at first, and once I point it out, it's very obvious, but it's not too bad.
you should
You
like
just you
hang
just have to.
Christmas lights on it or something in December. Like
That
utilize
would
that
bring
bad
too much
boy.
attention. That'd bring too much attention to it. It would just be too obvious. I guess I could light up my basement stairs and it won't be creepy down here, but it's my ash layer. No one else has to worry about it.
I like that. Now I'm
We
one
just call
hard
it
fall down the stairs from nailing my Ethernet cable to my ceiling. Like that's all it's gonna take. Is just one hard trip and fall before that bad boy is on the ceiling. So that might be an off-season project, no doubt.
yeah, off season. We do have this show and then one more show next week when everything wraps up in the NASCAR world, which is wild to think about.
Yeah, it's really wild to think about, which actually I'm glad that you pointed that out quickly because those that are on the chat right now or that are tuning in, it's worth noting that we are going to be live again next week. I know we are going to be back at our normal time on Wednesdays next week. So that's going to be one of the very few places for y'all to be able to come hang out, talk racing, whatever happens championship weekend, that is going to be a great spot for you guys to kind of come in and share your opinions and we'll share ours with you. So note that there is going to be a place to chat the chaos of Phoenix next week, even though the season has technically ended. We'll still be around.
We will still be around. Like exactly what Jesse said. If you have any opinions of the finale, we will be here for you to express those opinions. I just we are um every week. So we do have a lot to get through Martinsville because I see the YouTube chat's already going crazy.
Yeah, I was just
As
reading
per the YouTube
those.
chat. As per the YouTube chat does. Yeah, let's get into it. First, Jesse, how was Martinsville? Because you were there.
I was there. Yeah, I was there on Sunday. It was beautiful, like just weather-wise, environment-wise, ambiance, energy. Couldn't have asked for a better race day. The hot dog lines were long. The fans were excited. Like everything was so wonderful. It was just like that feeling, you're like, all right, we're about to do something really cool here at Martinsville. It's gonna be a good race. And it was. We did something quite entertaining at Martinsville for the fans. So like, from a 360 point of view, like beautiful day, great day, happy to be there. And at the end of the day, I'm always happy to be there at any NASCAR race, but the, however you want to look at it, like that was exciting at the end. I mean, I know it's penalties, I know it's whatever, but like we're coming down to who was going to race for a championship. And we're all sitting on the edge of our seats, on the edge of the pit wall, waiting to hear who this is going to go to. So at the end of the day, it was an interesting Sunday in Martinsville. The energy was good. It was beautiful. I was happy to be there. Quite a day.
Did you have any hot dogs?
I did not have any on Sunday. I did have as we discussed prior, my yearly Martinsville dog, my required dog to keep my NASCAR license. That's a joke,
Mhm.
but it's not. That's just what I tell myself
But it's not.
to let myself eat my yearly hot dog. No, like I said, the lines were so long. Truly, like by the time that I got there and when I got in line, like it was long. I wasn't, and I already had one the week before, so I was dogged out.
I was dogged out. I forget what is the crazy stat that they have of how many they sell per race weekend.
50,000. They
Do I
estimate to sell
believe that?
about 50,000
That's
Martinsville hot
so
dogs on a
many.
race weekend.
Who is
It is
eating
a lot.
50,000 Martinsville hot dogs?
Well, let me tell you this. You can buy them in two, you can buy them by the sack full. That if you see those hot dog lines, that number will not surprise you, man. Like people be putting away those hot dogs. I don't blame them.
And for those who are unaware, the Martinsville hot dog has been long established. I think before Formula One was an official racing series, right? I think the Martinsville hot dog they were selling it since like 1947, since
Yep.
48.
Yep.
So it's been going on for a while, and it is
Mhm.
a dog that is dyed like it's a regular hot dog. It's dyed
It's a
red, I believe.
Jesse James.
Oh, excuse me. Yes,
Jesse
Jesse James. It's not
Jones.
Nathan.
Jesse Jones, sorry. Jesse James is the country singer. Jesse Jones, very different people. She doesn't eat hot dogs. Jesse Jones hot dog, bright red. That's why it's red. I
Why
just want to
are they red?
clarify.
Alexander's asking, and it's like that's a
You
great
know
question.
what? It's funny too. They actually changed the hot dog a number of years ago. They stopped using the red ones, the firecracker red, and they started using a different brand of hot dogs. And the fans rioted. They said, "Absolutely not," and they switched back.
Okay, so it's red because that was, I think, the original hot dog back in like 1947, 48. And like as Jesse said, they tried to switch, didn't work out. So now we're back to the red hot dogs. On top of it is chili, if I'm not mistaken,
Mustard,
sauerkraut,
nope.
mustard.
Chili, mustard,
Yeah.
onions, slaw. It's a Jesse Jones
Oh,
hot dog.
slaw. Excuse me.
Chili, mustard, onions, and slaw. I actually am realizing how much I know about this hot dog and hot dog history, and maybe I should scale it back a little bit because the fact that I am like very proudly able to give you so many hot dog statistics says a lot about me and my brand. And I will just let that one live. So,
They get
but
the
they're
meat
great
from red cows. Yeah, like how we get chocolate milk from brown cows. Absolutely, H cats. That's
for sure.
riveting Twitch. And yeah, I also like the sign when they showed on the broadcast because Kim Kuhn was there. She was making sure the hot dogs were shown in the pre-race show and stuff. That it says no modifications allowed. Like you just get the hot dog as with the works. Like you have no, you cannot
Plain
substitute. You cannot add anything. It is
or
just
all in. Yep, you're right.
there's no if ands or buts about it. You're eating a hot dog whether you want it or want to or not.
Yeah, you wait in line and get up there and they tell you what you want. That's how it works. It's like TJ
You look like you
Maxx.
need the works today. It's like TJ Maxx. It's so funny. Vibes good. Lots of people.
Yeah, lots of people. It's funny that you mentioned Kim Kuhn actually I saw her trying to shoot that pre-race hot dog report, or report from the hot dog stand, I should say. And she was like, just, I mean, you know how small Martinsville is. It's a half-mile track, so the infield in itself is already so tiny, and then you've got these people in there, and the hot dog stand is right off a pit road. I mean, poor Kim was in there with like a hot dog in one hand, like just with her crew, just trying to find enough space to shoot that report, which really just goes to show like how exciting it was down in the infield before the race starts. Now, I know that the race wasn't sold out, which definitely disappoints me a little bit. I hate seeing such an exciting race at such a really fun venue not have the ticket sales that one would expect it to have. So I have no problem noting that. Like, I think people should know that because there were tickets available. Like, go to the race. Go to the race if you can go, especially at Martinsville. And we saw how exciting that was. For 2 years in a row now, it's been an incredibly eventful race. So if you have the opportunity to go to Martinsville, go. And then eat a hot dog. That's the second requirement of the trip.
That is the official rule. I guess we should get into the news before we go into the whole entire kit and caboodle of what everyone's talking about. First of all, NASCAR Euro Series released your 2025 calendar. That's correct. NASCAR does race in the continent of Europe. 14 rounds, 7 doubleheaders, and 7 countries. Their calendar does include ovals. Fun fact. And they also race on traditional circuits such as Zolder and Brands Hatch. So is that something that interests you? And if you're over yonder, over the ocean, please consider going. It's a hoot and a half. I heard it's a really good time. But we also have the NASCAR Canadian Series, Mexico, and Brazil. So NASCAR is very diverse in its championships. I also think it's like a new era for them. I was reading the news very quickly, as in that they're working on a new car. So like their Gen 3 Euro NASCAR car. I know NASCAR doesn't stand for the car, it stands for everything else. So the NASCAR car. Um, and that is what they're doing. And then they are also working on just rebranding as a whole with the logo, so it's more in tune with like the NASCAR here in the United States and whatnot. So it is something to look forward to. And I think they have their races on YouTube, or they did stream them for some time before the season ended. So that's something that interests you. NASCAR never really has to end.
Mhm.
There are no breaks in the season. It just keeps going and going and going.
And the
NASCAR
Euro
Euro Series
Series.
says
Oh, sorry, no, go ahead.
enthusiast.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I just, before you moved on, I was gonna like sing some Euro Series praise. So by all means,
Oh no, you're
finish
good.
the news.
Motorsport enthusiasts in the chat said the Euro Series is going to be so fun to watch in 2025. So we do have some experts.
Cool. I'm so glad. I'm glad that you guys are already there and that you aren't having to listen to me for the first time say check out the Euro Series, because it really is super cool. I had covered the Euro Series for a lot of years when I was working in the international side of NASCAR. So I kind of got a little more acquainted with it before, even in the last couple years. And then seeing people like Ryan Vargas go over there and run, even before that, Myatt Snyder went over there and ran a little bit. Jinjo Cobb ran a little bit. It's just cool to kind of like see different drivers of different facets go and see how they stack up. And it gives you a great appreciation for the different style of racing and what they do over there. I actually got a chance to go to one of the races too. I went to Oschersleben in Germany about this time last year, so last fall, and I got to go be I actually got to be the grand marshal, which was really freaking cool. I got to say drivers, start your engines. I did say it in English, so there was a little language barrier because one of the drivers fired their engines before I was done. Sorry, I don't think I ever got that off my chest. I would just like to say that quickly. You get to be like the grand marshal like one time in your life, and I'm like, drivers, start. And I was like, it's okay. So in hindsight, I would have done it in German. But all that to say, big fan of the Euro Series. They're really great what they do over there, and they're very talented. So big fan. Check it out. That's my Euro Series trauma. Thanks for asking. I
Jesse
needed
really
to
had to
get
get
that
that
off
off her
my
chest.
chest.
Yeah, exactly. Regular season starts April 12th, 2025 in Valencia. Circuit Ricardo Tormo. And of course, I can't roll my R's because. So, April 12th and April 13th, same circuit in Valencia. That is the first doubleheader. If you would like to check it out, whether you want to watch it or they do also have the playoffs, which starts September 20th. Fun fact. So, that is part of it. And I saw they're also using the way they're rebranding it a little bit or like redoing it is that they're going to have a pathway for drivers from Euro NASCAR to go into in the United States to race, whether it's Truck Xfinity Cup. So they're having more of a ladder system and like points and something to figure out. I'll have to read more into it, but I do appreciate, yeah, get more folks in here into our cup, our Xfinity, our trucks from other countries, other parts of the world. I think that's great. I think that's awesome. That's so fun that they're actually like making sure they're implementing that the drivers feel comfortable, financially backed to go do so if they do well in the Euro NASCAR series. I think that's really fun.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And that's why I bring up some of those people like Mike Snyder and Jinjo Cobb, because truly they were going over and doing this kind of, I don't want to say laying the grounds, but laying the idea out there of this kind of cross promotion, cross series. And this was 6 years ago that they were doing this, 5 years ago. So then to see the involvement that, that I mentioned that Ryan Vargas has had, and that whole just everything that they've done this year in the last couple seasons to kind of bridge that gap, I guess you should say, between Euro Series or Euro NASCAR and American NASCAR. I'm hopeful because I remember they brought a lot of the NASCAR Brazil drivers over to Daytona before that series had really started up, and getting to talk to a lot of them just about what that opportunity would mean to them to have a pathway to work towards that greater goal. And for us to be able to provide that as a sport to drivers only, as we've talked about before, opens us up to more talent around the world, which makes us an even more competitive league. So I think we might see some really cool opportunities coming out of that. What do they call that? The Road to America program, I think somebody mentioned in the chat. Big fan.
Yeah. And much love to exactly what a lot of folks in the YouTube and Twitch chat are saying. Much love to our friends in Valencia. Oh, any of those affected by the flooding. We know that's
Oh
that's
yeah.
hit the area hard with the Formula E testing. Had to also double check in the area and make sure and help the folks there in Valencia. So fingers crossed, the city of Valencia, the town of Valencia, is able to host and move forward in that area because those tourism dollars, those from the racing coming in and promoting the locality of it would definitely be beneficial and kind of get Valencia back on its feet. So fingers crossed and hope everyone affected by the floods are doing okay. Yeah, much love to them out there. Absolutely. Yes, you're able to look it up. I know they just released the news of the car and the Road to America program that they're talking about. So if you just go into Euro NASCAR 2025, the scheduling, and check that out if you're overseas. In other news, Corey Heim will be staying in the Truck Series for a third year. I know we're all people have thoughts. I have
You can hear
thoughts.
the cries of the rest of the truck field right now. Everybody just
He better win 30% of the races like minimum 30% of the races next year. That is what that man is stuck in truck purgatory. Like I just
I
I
think he
understand he can't
is.
move up because there's no way there's nowhere for him currently to go, but ugh, I feel so bad for him. He's so talented.
That's the thing, is that it's almost like you gotta flip flop the viewpoint because you're so right. And I almost think he's so talented that he is in full control of his destiny. Like hit him alongside Toyota and everybody he's working with. Like I think that he is like their guy. Like he knows, they know this guy. He's gonna do it for us. He's our next big whatever. Let's play the long game here. Like let's not just like you said.
You
There's
think
not a
so?
good ride for him there. I like to believe. I don't. I mean, he is so talented in the Truck Series. If you can't look at what he's done in the Truck Series, and then also look at what he's done, running part time here and there in the Xfinity Series for Sam Hunt. He had those couple runs in Cup. Like he is a talented driver. Like you cannot deny that across the board, all series. He's been
Yeah.
able to go in there and learn and perform. So I think that they're just figuring out what that perfect pathway looks for him and doing that in due time. Now I think you're right. Like he should move up at this point. He is really good to be racing at the level that he's racing at. But at the end of the day, it's not like there's a limit, It's not like they say, "Oh, you're too good
Right.
to run trucks. You got to move on." But I don't know. I don't feel bad for him by any means. I think he is set up just fine. That's my opinion, at least.
I Google his age. He is 22. He does have I mean, it's weird. In professional sports, I'm like, is 22 old? Like, does he have plenty of time
Right?
left? Is he gonna be okay? So, yeah, 22, okay, in motorsports, young, IMO, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I think he'll be okay.
Very
Understanding that
young.
I think JGR is not good for him because of that title battle in ARCA. So I don't think that's going to be a possibility for him. I think he would need a lot of financial help going into the Sam Hunt Racing. I know he does it part-time, but I think if Tifosi could be a full-time ride, uh, and then everything else requires leaving Toyota, which I don't think he wants to do because Chevy has
Correct.
enough talent also, so it's the same issue. And then I don't think Ford has the driver development program similarly to those other 2 manufacturers. So
No.
I he yeah, either they're they I just keep saying purgatory, like, he's so good, and just Trucks is just gonna be the Corey Haim show next year.
It really is. I mean, he's got it again, trying to flip flop it. It's more or less like, okay, who are we going to see be able to come in here and challenge Corey? Because we've already known what he brings to the table. I think that I'm reading the chat a little bit, and people are talking about the change in the charters, like, and then you bringing up the developmental program. At the end of the day, Toyota's developmental program is fabulous. Like, it's known for being very very good if you can get in there and you can really ingrain yourself, which he seems to have done so. Um, I think there's a lot of, like, to the point about the charters, maybe more now than before, ambiguity looking into the future of, like, okay, we have a plan, but with an understanding that, like, still figuring out what things are going to look like for teams, um just in the next couple years in general. But I don't know, I think that I'm not worried about Corey Heim, I guess,
Yeah.
to say that. You mentioned something, oh, which I thought is so funny, and I just have to, like, get your thoughts on this when you bring up, because he's, to me, he's so young, like, so young. I mean, career wise, I know he's 22, but career wise, he hasn't, and this will be his third year in trucks, but it's not like it's his. I mean, come on, like, he was just racing ARCA a couple of years ago, but it does remind me of when you're watching, like, a football game, and they'll be like, oh, like, this whatever, I'm pick a position. The running back, like, he's the oldest in the league, or at the age of 27. It's an athletic miracle the way he goes out there on the weekends, and I'm sitting on my couch at home like, thanks. The way they just talk about, like, the age, it being like such a miracle that they can go out there and still perform the way that they do. Nah, Corey's just
Yeah,
fine. 22 was very young.
yeah, Garrett Cole, 34, got an extension from the New York Yankees. I think Corey, and then I would say the shoulder pitching 162 plus games. I think he pitches every single game, but still, I think Corey I was going to be just fine at 22, continuing his trucks. Some dude 77 in the YouTube chat brought up a good point. I think to counter to mine, what's wrong with being a truck specialist though? Truck Xfinity specialist used to be a career path. The question is it still a viable career path to stay there? And I guess it depends. Yeah, if Corey Heim wants to be a truck specialist, sure. I don't think we've seen that in a while.
I would argue a great Enfinger. I would argue with Matt
Hmm.
Crofton. And I wouldn't look at a Grant Enfinger or Matt Crafton's career. Matt Crafton is a 3-time Truck Series champion. I
Yeah.
mean, like, that's nothing to hang your hat on. Like, I definitely think that's Justin Allgaier. I mean, does anybody look at Justin Allgaier and be like, kind of he was great, but he never, really took off in Cup? No, they're gonna be like Justin Allgaier, like, carried an incredible legacy in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. He's, one of the best to beat. Like, I think it's the same way with trucks. Look at Ben Rhodes. I think Ben Rhodes is very happy being where he's at ThorSport and in the Truck Series. He's been there
Yeah.
for. We're just talking about this will be Time's third year. Ben, I'm just pulling from the top of my head. I'm gonna have to guess like 7th or 8th season in trucks. I mean, there's nothing wrong with finding your place in that field, especially because it's not like we're talking about the same race car. Like, there's so many
Yeah.
differences between the cars and the series and everything, the lengths of the races. It's a total different style of racing that I don't think there's anything wrong with going into a series and being a mainstay. But when we're talking about Corey Heim, Corey's already shown that that's not what he wants to do. He's run
Mhm.
Xfinity part time. He's stepped
Yeah.
in and filled in on the Cup side. If he didn't want to move up with those opportunities, he wouldn't be presenting himself in the way that he is.
He's spoken about it too, his desire to eventually move up, right? I think if he was like, "Hey, I wanna be in trucks forever," I'd be like, "Cool." I'm also just, like, innately curious to be like, "Hey, can I just see what you're doing? But we know how he does in Xfinity, right? Like you said, that part-time, and we talked about that as Sam Hunt Racing and stuff like that. So I think because he's expressed interest, like we just want to see good driving be rewarded. But at the same time, you and I talk about this, that sometimes motorsports is just unfair. Like you're just wrong place, wrong time. There's not enough room for you. There's no room for you. The money's not coming in. The sponsors don't want to pay for, can't pay for Xfinity, but they can pay for a truck season, whatever the reason is. Or you want to keep developing. Toyota has a plan, but maybe it might not match up his plan, but they're going to work together to make sure that he gets there in the time that it's all going to work out for everyone. There's a lot of things behind the scenes where it's not just easy that if you're the best, you're going to get up there in motorsports, unfortunately.
I'm
It just works
so
out that
glad you laid it out that way. It's not like baseball. Like you mentioned baseball earlier, where you've got these different levels and you're able to go pull from a minor leaguer and bring them up because of the talents they're showing, and we've got to it's a business. Like there's so much business that goes into racing. And I love the way that you laid all that out, because you could have just as easily been talking about this weekend's events, the way that you said it is, it is what it is. It's very different
Sometimes
than
your
what.
dad owns a Formula One team and you get to just to sit in it all your life, And like if I had a son, I would do the same thing and I don't have the money to do it. But sometimes you're not the best of the best. Sometimes your daddy just owns the team, and that's okay because this is the world we're in. And alas. So we wish Corey Heim the best in 2025. I'm predicting that he will win at least 30% of the races. I will write that down. Actually, I will write that down right now so you guys can make fun of me next year when we go through this.
Does Corey Heim go out and win Daytona?
Does he win everything?
No, Grant Enfinger. Here we go. You write that down, and I'm going to write the script. I'm going to write the script for the next couple weeks. Grant Enfinger goes out, and Grant wins again this weekend at Phoenix. He goes 3 in a row, wins the championship at Phoenix for the first time ever. Talk about Truck Series mainstays, right? Somebody that deserves a championship. He's won regular season titles, never won the Truck Series championship. And then... but he's won at Daytona. Then he goes out in February and follows it up with a 4th in a row, technically, and gets another win. That's my writing the script. How fun? How cool would that be? No, I don't know.
Because I do. I am now enthusiastic about it.
No, I do love seeing though what that 98 team has. No, I'm sorry, he's not in the 98 anymore. That was me pulling from my old NASCAR brain. That CR7 Motorsports team, I'm excited to see what they do, because to that point, it is a smaller operation compared to the Tricons of the world. And to see the way that they, were able to go out there and compete and put themselves in the championship for, it's exciting. I like that for them. And yeah, I was right. Christian Eckes won Martinsville, so I did have that wrong. But it was I realized that halfway through saying it, but then it didn't fit my overall excited narrative, so it doesn't really help me there. So just let me have it, okay?
Grant is a super nice dude. Always comes out in the campground to see the fans. Says the Twitch channel. Oh, that's awesome. They're pretty down to earth dudes. The truck guys. They're always like, I know I see him doing fan interactions or just signing little extra autographs after some speaking engagements and stuff. So I know the Cup drivers get a little inundated with the number of fans they get, but the truck guys, and the Xfinity guys really take the time when they can. Cup might be a little bit difficult, the number of people that they have to see, but they definitely do their best. I know Kyle Larson definitely tries. So that's good to hear. We do have the truck race. Someone did bring up Christian Eckes won Martinsville. Yes. I didn't watch it live. I watched it when I went on Twitter and saw the insane reaction. And I was, I don't know, Jessie, how was it like before I give my side of the story? Because you were there.
Sure. Throw it my way.
Throw it back to Jessie.
What do you want? What would you like from me? How would you like?
Okay.
What part of this?
I got on Twitter, right? And I thought Blazing Saddles, something happened. Someone got wrecked in the wall. It was just bad news bears. People were freaking out. I saw the photo of the walkover, and then Art But Make It Sports posted it, which was really fun. I was like, oh my gosh, what happened at the end of this race? I need to watch. And then I watched it, and I was like, this isn't as big of a deal. We all made it on Twitter. I understand the move that was done, and I understand the frustration. I get both sides. I understand. I honestly thought that someone was hurt. Like, it was just the reaction was insane. And I was like, "Oh, someone got moved." And
yes, I agree with you. I think that the reaction, especially in hindsight of the grand scheme of the weekend and the way that it's kind of like, don't cry wolf on Friday when the wolf comes on Sunday kind of deal, and you want to have an opinion on things. Like, it's hard to make such a big deal out of something that really wasn't when then you see bigger deals later. But I think what I like to think, I like to attribute responses like that to the nature of the series. It's like what we all just talked about with the trucks and this guy, like this being a field full of a lot of different personalities, a lot of different skill sets. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of drivers in there that are looking to, make a name for themselves. Like, they are looking to use this as an opportunity to get a ride next year, Chandler Smith, or whatever it
mm,
may be. Um, to them, there is so much on the line here. Not making that championship four is way more than just
understood.
not making that championship four. So I like to attribute some of that passion and emotion and, maybe overzealousness to some of that, which I think is a good thing. But at the end of the day, yeah, it was just racing. Like, it wasn't no, I don't think anybody did anything egregious. In fact, I think the most egregious thing that was done was Taylor Gray saying, "I'm gonna wreck you at Phoenix." like that to me was the most blatant egregious thing that happened in all of that.
No,
Way
the
more
most egregious thing
egregious
was
than
Dean
Chandler Smith.
Thompson jumped his teammate, and everyone forgot about that because we're talking about this. No one's talking about Dean Thompson doing that. We're all like, "Oh no, Christian Heckes from Taylor Gray, his teammate." And I was like, "How did we
Dean's
forget
like
all of this?"
Dean's like Dean's like pushing Taylor and Christian into each other. Fight, make a scene. No, it is interesting though, and it's, I hate to be that person, but it's like that's the playoffs. Like, that is what
Ooh,
I know. I know,
ooh,
because
hot.
we're about to have a real hard conversation here in a couple minutes. But like on Friday, it was like leaving that race going, oh, that's like the beauty of the playoff system, right? And the way that these guys are fighting so hard for these positions, and willing to move a team. I don't know, like whatever it was, but it was nothing that I wouldn't have expected from the truck series in Martinsville. I'll just say that. I thought it was great. I thought it was exciting, to say the least.
Yeah, I understand that Christian Eckes had a good car, he was running well. I mean, a win's a win, right? Like, you want that win regardless if you're in or not, because everyone's like, "Oh, he shouldn't have done it, didn't need the win, could have been P2, he would've been fine. Gray needed the win." And I was like, "You just don't give wins to your competitor." Like, I understand what they're saying. I also think, like, you race to win regardless of what happens as the result because someone doesn't make it in or someone does. Like, you're racing, you still want the win, you still want that money, you still wanna be on that podium. So, yeah, I understand Gray's frustration, absolutely, and I also understand why Eckes did it. The question is, Alexander saying Taylor Gray is going to wreck Eckes or race him hard at Phoenix, the drama, and I don't know if anything, like, why do I think, like, nothing will happen? I feel like we've built this up. Again, the reaction and, like, what's gonna potentially happen at Phoenix. Then I remember last year's Phoenix race where I was there forever because of the number of, yellow flags and overtimes and such like that because of what was happening on the grid. So, I
I
might retract this.
Yeah, that's an accurate. I don't want to say that should be expected, because that's setting a terrible precedence for this weekend. But you're not wrong in thinking that way. I do think though that this, to the conversation of what we'll see from Taylor Gray at Phoenix, will be a very large spotlight of a display of how much Taylor has matured as a driver at this point in his career.
Yeah.
Because if you've been watching Taylor since ARCA, Taylor's heated. Like, that used to be like my joke kind of in covering ARCA East, was that like I'd go talk to Sammy Smith on the grid and Sammy would give me the very like, PR beautifully scripted answer to everything. And then you go to Taylor and Taylor would be like, well, if the engines and he just had like no problem spewing it, because he did trust me and he knew I wasn't going to go put him in a bad light. But my point in that was Taylor's always been fiery. And sometimes he's let that fieriness push the limit a little bit. Even back in ARCA, he's a bit of a hothead. So I think for him to go out there, be as blatant as he was to Chandler and say, "I'm going to wreck you." Well, you can't do that. You cannot do that.
Correct.
How will he follow that up on Sunday? I mean, excuse me, at Phoenix this weekend? Will he go back out there and race Chandler and let the driving speak for itself? You know, like, will he go out there and just, to me, if he goes out there, puts a hell of a show, kicks Chandler Smith's butt on the racetrack, that says more to me than going out there and wrecking him. Like, I think it's going to be, it's a good kind of an interesting display of like where we're at in the maturity wise of Taylor Gray as a driver, and how he chooses to respond to this, not in the heat of a moment, with a week to think about it, you know?
In the YouTube chat, don't know. It was a long walk for Gray to cool down his head. Heel wreck is what the YouTube chat says, and I do find that interesting. Actually, when I get this, I always give Ricky Stenhouse this because he always seems to be the one. Um, Gosh, was the clash this year or last year? He had some beef with Joey Logano, and it was like the halftime, whatever. So they're in the pits. They were sitting in their car. He like takes the moment to undo everything, climb out of his car, Yosemite Sam to Joey Logano's car, yell at his face, and then go back. Like, how angry do you have to be to undo your belts, take off the devices, like put down your window net, climb out of your car, walk on over, yell at a dude, go all the way back, put everything back on? Like, Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
And yell at a dude who you know it's going to take him another 30 seconds to get out of his car, out of his suit, out of his window net, to throw the potential slap to be even thrown. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, what are we doing here? What are we doing?
Yeah, they have so much time to cool down and then they don't. And I'm like, oh my God, like, what are we doing here? The Kyle Busch fight, I think, is a little different. Like, he said something, so then he had to like stand on business and like back up his words. He did have time to cool down, but I think he like dug himself a hole where he couldn't back down at that point. So the clash thing is always funny because it's the clash, right? This is the exhibition fun, good race, and the man's coming over after undoing everything. And I was like, how angry are you right now about this clash? First race. Not like, oh my goodness, it's gonna be a long season for you, dude. Um, so
Yeah.
you just
Ash, though, I know you had an interesting perspective on the way that Chandler responded, and I don't know if you want to get into it now, but I'm just very excited before I have to like super go to see your breakdown monetarily of how
oh yeah.
Chandler's acts this weekend. And now that I'm saying it out loud, we can wait till we get into actual penalty talk, but I have a lot of thoughts on the slap heard around the world.
And Christian didn't apologize in front of the cameras. He just said, "I have another POV." Yada yada yada. Yeah, the Amanda Busick did a great job. Because you have to understand it's not personal, it's business. So she's trying to get the quotes, and they're like moving her microphone away from her their face and things like that. So she handled it really well. I would be like, I'm only. I'm so sorry. Like, I need to do this. This is my job. Please talk to me. But Amanda handled that so professionally, and getting some quotes and stuff like that. So yeah, that was interesting. Taylor, just the whole situation. But the final four: Grant Enfinger, Christian Ackes, Ty Majeski, Corey Heim. We will see what happens in Phoenix. We will see if folks get their, I don't want to say revenge. Again, this is premeditated revenge. So I just need every driver to like realize that NASCAR also knows this, and like the penalty might be a little bit it might be a little bit bigger if you're thinking about it, talking about it out loud. So look forward to that on the Friday 8 p.m. Going on to the Xfinity race, right? We had Parker Retzlaff on pole. We had the Allmendinger Custer into Allmendinger into the wall situation. Almirola won stage 1, won stage 2, won the race overall. Some spins from Brandon Jones, Perkins, Williams. We did have Chandler Smith running Cole clean for several laps, and then Custer still got a little bit mad, even with the restarts and stuff. And then yet again, some more drama post-race where Smith goes up to Cole, gives him a little bit of a, I don't even know what you would call it, because I would say it's a slap or an attempted slap. It was, we're just going to say it's a slap. I'm not going to say anything else. And people got heated, had to keep each other back. Some words were exchanged, I'm sure. So, Jessie, how was that in person as well, in addition to what we just saw in trucks?
Yeah. So I will say, regrettably, I wasn't. Well, then again, I got to see it full, from the broadcast perspective, but I wasn't there on Saturday, so I watched it like you guys did, and very interesting. Again, kind of to your point, after what we saw at the trucks on Friday, you were like, "Whoa, that was heated," and then on Saturday, it's kind of like tempering expectations as to like what you're going to see.
Yeah.
Um, I I mentioned Chandler Smith earlier when I was talking about some of those truck guys that are fighting for so much more than just a spot in the championship, right? Like they're fighting for their futures. Like that's the most dramatic thing I could possibly put it. But like what I mean in that
That's
as
what it
far
is,
as
yeah.
like yeah, like they're fighting for their futures within their career. Um, so again, understanding the fuel behind the fire, there's so much deeper of a burn there besides just finishing order on Saturday. Um, but I do feel as though I don't know. I'm trying to be nice. It was just tough. It was I don't know. It was an interesting finish to the race. It was an interesting finish to the race. I think that
Yeah, right.
I I don't want to just like make fun of Chandler Smith, but it is a tough situation though when you're looking at a guy like Cole Custer, who is pretty set in a seat
Mhm.
through his career, and Chandler, who was actively feeling the pressure of looking for a ride next year. It's a mix of emotions for sure.
And some people are talking about it, but I think that the situation kind of again shadowed, kind of like how I think the whole Dean Thompson was shadowed. That man is so lucky. Um, but we had some great finishes. Well, I mean, Sheldon Creed was P6, but not P2. So but Parker Klingerman top 10. He's got that P8. Which was great. Allgaier's got that P5, which was awesome. Interesting to see what happened to Shane Van Gisbergen. Seeing because there's a lot of talk right around him, and his road course ability is not questioned. People are going back and forth on his oval ability. Is he ready? Short tracks, super speedways, long tracks, and stuff. And interesting to see how it works out with his crew chief and such as he moves on in. But he did get P28 in Martinsville, unfortunately. But yeah, Almirola won the race.
I just think quickly about SVG. It is
Mhm.
such an interesting conversation because I do understand that when we're looking at the level that we're talking about with putting him into a Cup Series ride, that's the best of the best in stock car racing. So it's understandable to look at anybody when you're moving them up and say, are they ready? But it's also just really funny to look at the way that SVG has managed to perform this year, the consistency that he's had. Of course, he's gonna make mistakes. This guy's literally never raced on an oval. Like, I mean, to compare it, okay, we did the Corey LaJoy kickball tournament, and I asked him, I said, how much kickball experience do you have? And he was like, about an hour and a half. Like that's about the equivalent of how he is going into some of these Cup Series races. Like he's raced on these tracks one time, maybe for a second time now that we're reaching this point in the season. So again, it's understandable to analyze any driver that's going to make their way up to the highest level, but at the end of the day, goodness, we've got to give this guy some credit for what he's been able to do this year. I mean, you look at some of these other drivers that make the mistakes that they've made, and they've come up through years of ARCA, years of trucks, years into Xfinity. Now they're learning their. Shane Van Gisbergen got SVG got thrown to the fire, and he is handling himself very well. So it's an understandable conversation, but like goodness, give him some credit. No,
I mean, you and I are on the same page. You know how I love SVG, but a lot of people are still similar to the smack talk. People are talking about Connor Zilic, which is interesting enough. Like the goalposts keep kind of moving for them. You make a good point. Everything you said, yeah, absolutely agree. That he has some tough competition. He's just learning ovals, and I think he's learning quickly. He's not consistent yet in ovals, but neither are some of the best drivers that we know. Especially as we start talking about Cup Series in just a second. I think he's on there. P12 in Cup. He is. He's great. Oh yeah, Ray says same, just same. Yeah, we could have said it better than what Jess did. At least SVG wasn't rugby punting everyone like Hocevar was doing on Sunday. He was doing his best. He was doing his best in that 77. Um, yeah, let's move on to Cup. Smith, by the way, just for the record, did get fined $10,000 for that slap. Just keep that in your noggin. I guess you don't have to keep it in your noggin because I wrote it down, but we will go through that in a second. But yeah, let's get to the one, the only NASCAR Cup Series. Good news, 2.5 million viewers. Was up 14% from 2023, which was always good to see. Playoffs up overall 6% in viewership, which we yeah, all good things. Truex on pole. I love MTJ. Um, I feel like we're not getting a big enough goodbye, but he's always been like a keep to himself kind of guy, and I understand. But he's running that scheme this Sunday, and
A
um,
big goodbye is like Martin Truex Jr.'s worst nightmare.
I know,
Like,
I know, but I'm over here like, like I'm all sad. I'm gonna wear my Bass Pro Shop hat on Sunday and
I
stuff
just
like
feel
that.
like if he could have just not shown up to the Daytona 500 and us be like, "Oh, where's Martin?" and that be his retirement announcement, he would have. You know, that's he would have totally just been like, "Peace. I'm not even gonna let anybody know. I'm just gonna call it." But no, I'm glad that he's given us at least a little bit of time. To your point, to his dismay, celebrate him. And it is sad
Yeah.
to see, the way that Sunday necessarily went for them at the end of the day, but was great to see that 19 up front, right there on pit road at Martinsville, how it hooks around, like it was just really cool to see him in the position that he's in and the team and everybody. Eh, We need to celebrate these successful moments for that 19 team because Martin's gone, right? Like full time, like this is it. So I was happy for them.
Sad. Just sad.
It
He
is
did
sad.
unfortunately spin in the race, and I was like, "Oh no, Martin."
I know.
We
That's why I say
had
celebrate the pole. I'm like, celebrate the good moments. Don't dwell on the bad ones because before we know it, he's going to be gone. But you're right. It wasn't good.
Yeah, we had a Byron Elliott battle. Elliott won stage one. Henrik spun Suarez. Hocevar spun Burton. Truex spun. Hocevar then spins Heinrich and collects Gilliland. Blaney Keselowski Hamlin battle. Keselowski then wins stage two. Kyle Busch loses a tire. Which was like crazy because they weren't. I don't know if anyone saw it right in time. I know the broadcast sees it because the cameras are right there, but we're like, throw the yellow. What are you doing? Blaney moves Larson out of the way. Larson moved Blaney out of the way, which was good. There was some good racing happening Blaney passed Elliott on the lead for 14 to go. Blaney won the race. Man was celebrating, and I feel so bad because again, I feel like his win was overshadowed. He's got the grandfather clock. That was so fun. Um, Bell rides the wall according to NASCAR. I am an asterisk. The number one and number three block for Byron. Chevy's orders. The 23 lifted for the 20. This is so much to digest here. And when I was watching live in my watch along, I was like, why aren't the 1 and 3 passing the 20? Like, what are we doing here? I was like, what's happening? I was like, wait, they're really on his butt. I was so confused. I was like, why? Why?
You're like, he's
How
doing a
did
great job of blocking both of these cars at the same time.
I was like, wow, Chastain and Dylan are driving so nicely next to each other and not passing this man. This is wild. Have they reformed? I was so confused. And then it made sense.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to rewind quickly
Oh, yeah,
because
go for it,
you make
Jess.
a really good
Go
point
for
when
it.
you say, holy cow, look what Ryan Blaney did on Sunday. And I almost feel
Yeah.
bad for him a little bit because like 30 minutes later when we were still waiting on an answer, everyone forgot Ryan Blaney had done what he had done and we were all waiting to see how NASCAR was going to handle this. So let's look back then quickly before we get there. Ryan freaking Blaney, holy cow, second year in a row a walk-off win at Martinsville to make his way into the championship four. His ability to work under pressure, and not just Blaney, but that team as a whole. Him and Paul Wolf, they nailed it on pit road. They had it figured out. They did what they needed to do. They worked well under pressure, and they got it done. Like, that 12 team is a force to be reckoned with. And I
Mm.
don't think it should be understated how big it was for him to go out there and do what he did on Sunday for the second year in a row.
Oh, yeah.
And I know we're not talking about this quite yet, but that is going to have huge implications on the way that that 12 team storms into Phoenix. The way that they approach that Phoenix race, the way coming off of how Martinsville went, and the parallels to last year. I mean, that alone is like, well, we did it again. We've got what it takes. Like, I think that that 12 team is going to be a huge force to be reckoned with once again in Phoenix because of the way that Martinsville went down. I loved it. Every second of it. Oh, and quickly, it was funny. I got kind of in like a weird awesome situation, but also like awkward situation. So the checker flag flies, everyone's watching, and you know how it is, like right after those kind of few laps or so as like the after the race ends, when the winner hasn't really started celebrating yet and the cars are kind of making their way down pit road, and some media is hopping the wall, some media isn't hopping the wall. It's just kind of a little bit of a free for all at that point. So I was waiting for it all to kind of settle, and I was like, do I want to hop the wall and go out there and watch the celebrations, or do I want to just like stay back? And I was like, okay, I'll hop the wall and go out there and look. So I was just staying to the side. All the media's down here. I'm off to the side over here.
Okay.
Just waiting by the wall with my little phone. I'm in my bright blue puffer vest and my lime green phone, and I'm just like by myself waiting to get a nice little Instagram video of the winner coming by. And Blaney like goes past the start finish line and starts his burnout like or his celebration like right in front of me, his climb out. And it's just me in my little puffer vest and my green phone, and I'm like, and now I can see like I am like, if you go look at the videos NASCAR posted, I'm very much in the background in my little puffer vest, like behind the wall, because all of a sudden, of course, then all the media swarmed down and like, but even in my video, you can tell I'm like, should I be here right now? Like, I don't feel like I should. I was trying to stay out of the way, and now I'm like front and center. Made for a great video, made for a great, exciting celebration moment in there. But it was just funny. I love being at the racetrack because you just never know like how things are going to go. And it was cool. I just want to give Blaney that time to really, for people to really appreciate what he did, because that 12 team worked their butt off to get to that point, and they ran a great race to do it. So, and I say that purposefully because there are other drivers that did not run very good races.
Not to point any of them out, but we'll talk about it in a second. Yeah, the way when he was like slapping his hood when he got out of the car, like he knew what he did. That was a great run, and the fact that he was able to, I mean, just pass Chase Elliott, keep it clean, move who he had to move respectfully without crashing anyone out. No, it was a great race. He ran and run. The strategy went long. I did like Martinsville up until the very last stuffs that happened. I think that kind of again overshadowed Ryan Blaney. But yeah, he is, according to NASCARology, best average finish at Phoenix in the next gen era, which is 2022 to present. So average finish of 3 in Phoenix, stage wins 2, top 5s 5, top 10s 5, etc. So again, you don't need a win to win the championship in the final 4. You just need to be ahead of the other 3 guys. So Ryan Blaney keeping that consistent in the pace. William Byron is 4th, Tyler Reddick being 6th, and Joey Logano, I think, is 10th on the average finish here. So statistically, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but we know anything can happen. Ryan Blaney has the best average finish in Phoenix with 3, William Byron at 9.4, Tyler Reddick at 12.2, Joey Logano at 14.4. So I think.
Well, I also think too with Blaney and that 12 team was they ran a great race on Sunday, but they also like Blaney was set back a bit in the field. I don't want to throw out numbers because I don't have them right in front of me, but he was set fairly far back with less than 100 laps to go. And his ability to make his way up through the field and, like you said, race everybody in a clean but aggressive manner because he has a goal in mind, and they got it done. And I think being able to do something like that too is huge for that overall mentality, momentum, everything for this team to have an understanding that, yeah, not only can we go out there and put together a great race, but we can also overcome adversity. We can work up through the field when we need to. We can overcome whether it's the large adversity of having to win in Martinsville to make our way in, or it's the small adversity of having to pass cars on the track to get to where we need to be. This team is very, very good at managing these challenges. And to your point, very good at Phoenix. So we might be seeing another Ryan Blaney championship this year. I would not put it past that team at all.
Let's talk about those penalties of the 1 and the 3 and the 23. For what penalized for what NASCAR deems as an attempt to manipulate the outcome of the race based on NASCAR's review of scanner and data at Martinsville. Penalties are 50 driver points and 50 owner points for each team taken away, $100K fine to each driver, $100K fine to each owner as well. 1 race suspension, which is going to be Phoenix, for the crew chief and spotter, and 1 team management rep for each of the teams. So Eldon Sawyer went pretty hard to say that the driver suspensions are on the table if this keeps happening. NASCAR is determined to stop teams attempting to influence the results of the future by not racing 100%, which is what they did. And I believe I don't think 2311 are appealing from what I remember in their statement, but the
No.
other two teams are, and I think they'll likely are. I think today might be their appeal that they're hearing. So we'll see what comes from the appeal. But those are the penalties and those are the fines per the race. Yeah. I have one piece of advice. I am not. I will asterisk this that I am not a NASCAR crew chief. I've never raced in the NASCAR Cup Series. I have never been a NASCAR spawner. But if you're gonna do something fishy, don't say it on your radio. My brothers in Christ, what are we doing? What? There's a quote from the internet, but from the TV show. God, who's it? Ron Swanson. And I'm just gonna use my bad word of the stream. Only whole ass one thing, never whole ass two things. And it's just don't. What are you doing?
You would think, right? And it's 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 a tough thing to talk about because it's comical. Like it's very funny to your point that we're sitting here being like it's Taylor's walking up going I'm gonna wreck you. Like it's like you can't say it. Like you can't. I mean it's the same thing. Like if you're gonna break the rules and you're just gonna flat out tell us how you're breaking them and the way with which you're doing them and the process of making sure everybody's breaking them on the same terms, it's like what are we doing? Like it's almost funny. But on the flip side, it's really sad. Like it is shown that it is a blatant disrespect for NASCAR. Right? I mean, there's always been this back and forth drivers, teams, like that's the sport, right? It's this like we're gonna make a NASCAR's gonna make a rule. Teams are gonna figure out what they can do to I'm noticing that we may not even be here, but I'm just going to keep talking in case like one of our streams is still getting us. But my point is like NASCAR makes a rule. The teams are like, all right, how do we push the limits here? And it's always this give and take, this ebb and flow. But what we saw on Sunday was a very weird, just blatant display of disrespect for NASCAR and competition. And it is the ultimate pushing the limits, right, from the teams. Like I don't know what else. How else do you look at that other than just blatant disrespect, blatant breaking of the rules? Like that's what it is. They say you have a rule, and we're going to break it, and we're going to tell you that we're doing it while we're doing it.
Yeah, was it SVG's radio where they're like, "Oh, that's a message from Chevy," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, dude, what are we doing?"
It makes and I have a question for you, Ash, because I did see some discourse of people saying like it's a tough line that we're always going to have to kind of walk and figure out as a sport because you can't like you'd be naive to say that there isn't manufacturers working together. Like that's the point of the sport. Like the manufacturers are gonna try to work together. I'm not saying necessarily on the racetrack, but I'm saying like from a competitive element, manufacturers working together is part of the sport, just in general. Now, where's the line on that when you say working together? You know, that's there's so many different levels and areas to which that is. But I heard people saying that like in other forms of motorsports, that's so much more prevalent on the racetrack than in NASCAR. And I was going to get your opinion on that. I mean, do you feel like NASCAR is so different in the way that we see the teams and manufacturers work together or police that even than other motorsports? Is that a fair thing to say?
Yeah, because people will talk about. Sorry, not saying yes to your question. I'm just explaining it to the different generation. Right in F1, you're allowed to have like inter-team orders, right? Like they tell Oscar Piastri, let Lando Norris pass him all the time, but that's like a McLaren thing. But you'll never see Mercedes helping out Ferrari for a McLaren or against Red Bull thing. Like that is wild. And it's not like I understand the Chevy manufacturer, I guess that's the connection, but there was like vastly all the different teams that were involved is crazy. So to go down to a manufacturer thing, which we see at super speedways from time to time, but I think like that is like semi. I was like, oh, like this is fine, but I realized if you like give an inch, like some people might take a mile, and I'm like, oh, this isn't what I wanted as a finish. Why don't we just pass him? How are the two drivers that I know who don't race this clean should not be chilling out here for like 14 plus laps. Um, so that was yeah. It's I'm glad they find the driver, the team. I think is $200,000. I think shoot, I guess I don't know what their funds are monetarily wise. Like, do I think it's fair? To me as a common person who's got student loans, $200,000 sounds like a lot, you know. And a suspension from Phoenix is I think is a pretty big deal. I thought that was pretty interesting. I am surprised the 24. Ooh, this is where it gets hard, right? Because there's no proof that the 24 or William Byron does not know, right? He's just racing his race. He has no idea what's happening. He just knows he can't lose positions. Like that's being informed. Um, it is very confused. Like, right? This is where it gets confusing, right? You can't prove anything, and that's
Mhm.
the way it is. We're not gonna throw him under the bus for something you don't know what they did or have any proof. You can't be like, oh, you're gonna get penalized for other people trying to help you, even though you had no idea that was going to happen. So I understand why the 24 wasn't penalized or is not penalized. I understand what the 20 is. The 20 just wall road, whether you think it's a wall ride or not. Like that is a blatant disregard of NASCAR's rules that they've implemented. People have called it the mild melon. People have called it the Bellin,
That's
which
funny.
I thought was
I
interesting.
haven't heard that one.
So I see where they are there. I kind of disagree. I think Jeff Gluck was it Jeff Gluck or was it Jordan Bianchi? It was kind of in the same realm of like it was like a was it not? Like he lost it? Did he try to get off the wall? He could have lifted. Did he gain an advantage? He had momentum. There's a lot of things in NASCAR looked at that I don't have access to, which is their telemetry, et cetera, et cetera. So that was done. I understand that, and then I understand what we're doing here, but I hope the 200K and the rest of it has, gosh, like, how do you make sure this doesn't happen again?
Well, quickly, before we get too much into the fines and everything too, while you're on the topic of Christopher Bell, I want to just I teed this up earlier in kind of a tongue in cheek way when I said other drivers. When I said Blaney ran a really great race, other drivers did not run a really great race. Christopher Bell did not run a very great race. I mean, take everything else out of the equation, take all of the penalties, take the way that the end of that race went. That
Sure.
team went into Martinsville needing a steady, consistent, solid, like top 15 finish. They needed just a solid day. They qualified not very good. They qualified out of the top 15. They Bell himself made mistakes on the racetrack down to the very end of it. I mean, we were talking about how all he had to do was what was it? Get around Bubba and he rides the wall. Like you can't tell me that was on like I don't know. They made mistakes on pit road. That team made a lot of mistakes to put themselves laps down to even be in the position of where they were at jockeying for that fourth playoff spot. So if
Yeah.
we're going to talk about the playoffs and we're going to talk about this ride to the championship in the way that we've been talking about it over the last 10 weeks, you can't make mistakes in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Especially as the rounds get tighter and tighter. This isn't a like one race, one mistake, that's what kept me out of the championship four. But the closer and closer we get, that's how it's going to be. And at the end of the day, that team went in there, needed just a pretty steady day. They didn't even need to win. And they hurt themselves by the way that they did not have a very good run. They made enough mistakes on Sunday to even put themselves in the position to be sitting on the pit wall after the checkered flag ran. So or waved. So I don't know. I just want to like look at it from that standpoint and say like taking everything else aside, we got to view this race from the same way that we view every single race. And they put themselves in that position in the first,
Right.
500 450 laps of that race. It didn't all come down to what we saw in the finish there.
Yeah, Justin M in the YouTube says 20 was the opposite of being clutch that weekend. So yeah, you put yourself in a desperate position. And to make a desperate move, and it just is what it is. And but the thing is that we have so much information, and we can hear your radio, and we know what you've done. So it all comes down to doing what you've done in that kind of way. I know NASCAR is going to be like, excuse me, no, thank you. Nitro said realistically, the 20 choked. Unfortunately, they felt like they really choked. Oh wow, this is where I kind of get on Bell from time to time, right? Like people have put him in their final four and they're like, oh, he's a great driver. And I'm like, yeah, but there's moments where he just doesn't deliver. And it happens to be moments like these. It's just like that inconsistency, like sporadically kills me with Christopher Bell, and he's got it in him. But I just like don't know where. I had to look a little closer at his final results about which tracks and what the situation was. It doesn't clutch, and you're like, oh, I'm glad you did well in those other ones, but like this was the moment to show everyone what you had. That's how I again felt about Chase Elliott watching this. I was like, okay, we're winning, we're doing it. He's doing Chase Elliott things, and then all of a sudden we stopped doing Chase Elliott things, and I was like, man, really unfortunate for potentially for this six-time most popular driver from 2023 and 6 years before. So
I will say, in while we're talking about the nine, I've been a little, not even a little. I've been very vocal about wanting to see him finally flip that switch. Like, I mean, if we're gonna go out there and you're gonna win a championship, much less compete for a championship at Phoenix, you got to flip that switch at some point. Like, it's a cautiously aggressive thing, but the aggressiveness at some point has to set in. And I will say that I did enjoy seeing that little bit of aggressiveness from a strategy standpoint with uh Chase and Gustafson being able to kind of split that third stage the way that they did on pit road.
yes,
Now, it could have worked out for them very well. It didn't quite the way that the cautions fell, but I did enjoy at least seeing that bit of a risk, right? Like, you're gonna have to take risks to do something different, to push the limits, to get to where to compete in a championship. And that's what I've been saying for weeks about this nine team. So in fairness to them, I was happy to see them do a little bit of that on Sunday. Now, unfortunately, it didn't work in the way that they'd hoped, but did at least answer a bit of my cries over the last couple of weeks of when are we going to see them push the limits. So glad to see they finally tried something there.
Nitro saying all 300 cars started falling off like rocks at the end of the race. In his opinion,
Oof.
for a second there, I thought Kyle Larson had it, and I was like, oh yeah, and it was like, oh no, never mind. Ryan Blaney's just doing the Ryan Blaney things, clutching up when he needs to. He's really good at that. And Denny Hamlin, someone was mentioning that he was starting from the back and he's not going to do well, and how dare I pick him for a winner? And then he was up there, and I was like, oh, he got all the tires, all the strategy to get him up to where he was. It just couldn't do it. Like, unfortunately, it was just like, you not wasted. You took all that energy, you took all the strategy to get to where you were in that top position, but then like it was just not enough for the win. Unfortunately, I was like, this is so sick, but like, unfortunate that he had to start from the back and like work his way up throughout the entire race.
Yeah. At this point with Denny too, I feel like when we see Denny Hamlin crack that championship four will be when we see him win that title. I just have to believe it. Like, you don't miss the championship four that many times. I really do. I think that when the stars align, when they make it there, it will be there. It will be their year. It just unfortunately again wasn't their year. They didn't have the speed. At the end of the day, they didn't have the speed. Like, they just didn't have it. So, and I think that they know that. It's
Yeah.
disappointing, but it's all right.
I'm gonna say, as much as I dislike Denny Hamlin, I really wanted his dad to open that cigar from Michael Jordan. Yeah, he just it's just like always so close, right? Always the bridesmaids, never the bride. We talked about that with Sheldon Creed. These are the stories though that build something interesting when it does happen to them, in what they face and what they go through. So that's very, very interesting. Beef says if you watched this week's Harvick Happy Hour, he was very interesting adjustment to the playoff format. That is really interesting. I believe I know what you're talking about. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like, if you win the regular season championship, you should automatically get a spot in the final four. If you're second in the regular season championship, you get a spot in the final eight, I believe he said, and then like so on and so forth till the round of 16, or the round of, yeah, etc. So, I think that was an interesting way to kind of reward doing well in the regular season and like hand in hand. Yeah, I think that's an interesting format, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I can't really speak to it because I haven't listened to him lay it out, but I have to believe he's put a lot of thought and time into how this playoff format runs, Kevin Harvick. So yeah, I have to go look that up because I've been a huge fan of this playoff format. I don't want to say huge fan. That's like an extreme. A huge defender of this playoff format. Because I really have, I feel, for a number of years tried to change the narrative around how we view it, from the negatives to the positives of what this format can do for the field and for competition. But it is tough at this point. Anytime you have the display of what you had on Sunday, like, you're going to have to take the time, go back, talk about, all right, how do you make sure this doesn't happen again? And how do we make sure that what we are trying to do with a postseason championship format is in line with the overall what we're trying to do with crowning the best in our sport. I think that there's definitely always conversation that should be had there, especially after what we saw on Sunday. So there's always room for improvement, right, in anything that we do,
Yeah,
especially when
so
you
again,
have challenges.
the 23, the 1, the 3 fined 100K per driver, and team. I should put that down. And then suspension from the crew chief spotter and one executive for Phoenix. I guess I should just really quickly whip this out because I did spend the time to write it. So this is my motorsport conversion chart. Again, Smith got $10,000 fine for a slap. Now, if you're keeping up with Formula One, or if you don't, the FIA doesn't like it when they curse during drivers' meetings, and not that they do it every single time, but sometimes it slips up. But they get fined for it. So Charles Leclerc did get fined 10,000 euros, which is 10.8 thousand US dollars. 5.4 of it is suspended if he doesn't curse again for an entire year. So take that as you will. So is one slap equal to one curse? And that's really up for chat to decide. Stenhouse, I mean, if you want some more numbers to do some more math, got fined $75,000 for a fight, which is, I mean, pretty big difference. So you definitely don't want to fight anyone. Definitely 1010 don't recommend. But then Ty Majeski got fined $12,500 for failing to appear for media day for the Final Four. So interesting enough, like, would Ty Majeski rather have slapped someone as
Yes.
opposed to not appearing for media day fine? If he had any beef, that's something he has to think about. That's not up to me to determine. And then of course you have for race manipulation $100,000, which is like,
Mm.
would you have rather fought someone instead of doing that
I'd
and
take
like
10
saved
slaps.
25K? So it's very interesting. I do appreciate the NASCAR does not fine for cursing. Thank you guys so much. I will not curse in this Twitch chat. I understand the rules here that we have to deal with, but sometimes people get heated and it just naturally happens and it slips and you apologize to the viewers on the broadcast and you do what you do. Thank you so much. Because I would not be able to handle the math and the conversion. Um, I'm, I'm gonna say that I think trying to stop drivers from cursing is like stopping a fish from swimming. Yeah, it's inherently interesting to do that, and it's not like an F1, they do it every other word, like, he was just saying, Charles Leclerc was just talking about how he oversteered into a corner and almost lost the car, and he said the F word, he just, like, dropped it, he was like, "Oh, I was thinking F, and then I have to fix it," and I was like, "No, that makes sense." When you're driving a race car and you're like, "Oh, fudge, I shouldn't do that." You're gonna say jinkies? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
Uh,
Dagnabbit.
but, again, he can't curse for a year, and then he has half off. Ooh, that's a good question. Would you Okay, here's a question for Chandler Smith and Ty Majeski. Would you not curse for a year to have half off your fines or just pay the full fine? That's a real question.
I That's a great question. That's a really good question. I will say I have a few thoughts on the Chandler Smith fine as well.
Sure.
And I know people are, comparing. I think that there needs to be a substantial amount of money allotted in there on under the Excel spreadsheet column of like embarrassment. Like, if you gonna throw it, let's throw it kind of thing. Like, I feel like the slap arguably
Correct.
could be like, we should be looking at these from a standpoint of, oh,
Did he get $10,000 worth of a slap
for sure.
is
But
what I'm thinking.
and I think and I actually think we should be looking at it the other way around. Like, NASCAR should be like, son, if you're gonna do it, we need to make sure we say it with me, do it right. Okay. So part of me says maybe that $10,000 fine, it's like the road to recovery. Maybe it should come with like a 10-week membership of like boxing classes after you pay off your slap fine to ensure that something like this never happens again. I also had a thought that maybe the level of fine with which is dished out. We have one of those boxing games that you see in bars where you can go up and punch the punching bag and it tells you
Oh, yeah.
how hard you hit. I think that if you go up and you slap it and it doesn't go very far, you should actually get more fines. I think that would be a good way to kind of level out how much money we dish out, is how egregiously embarrassing your attempt at making contact was.
Yeah, I hope he felt like he got $10,000 off. So, yeah, it was a gentle breeze of a slap. I wouldn't Cole Custer did say that he didn't feel anything. So, take that as you will. Maybe he's just trying to be cool with his whatever, but it'd be very interesting. Some dude says, interesting enough, NASCAR may have to look at the Majeski penalty unless they want voter suppression investigation. That is not a thing. They're not gonna. That's this. I was waiting for someone to say that because I'm glad you fell right into my trap. Millions of Americans go to work and are able to work because election day is not a national holiday. It just is what it is. They were able to vote. They voted early or they voted absentee. Chima Jesse does not get an asterisk or an exemption because he's a truck series driver. He made his decision. He missed it. He gets 12.5K. Millions of Americans are able to vote and go to work or work with their boss or tell them or do any other things like that. Why does he get an exception? Because he races in NASCAR. That is my like we've dealt with this for years. As long as election day has been a thing, that is not a national holiday, and he should have known. You go to work. Millions of Americans do it. Work 9 to 5. Work night shift. They vote and deal with it. And he decided not to. So that is up to him, and he knows what it's like to miss media day or why you miss media day. So could have done it could have voted any other way, and he decided not to. So 12.5K for missing media day. That is him. And then I guess you say 200K per team, and then the suspension as opposed to 100K driver, 100K team for the race stuff. So that is your motorsport fine conversion chart. And to wrap it up, because Jessie does have to go to Phoenix, so I want to make that very, very, very quick. Jess, your final four was Larson, Willie B, Bell, and Blaney. 2 of your final 4 have made it in. Rachel,
Are we
our
sure that
producer.
was my final four? Are we sure, Ash? I don't know. I do feel like I don't know. Are we sure?
Yeah, we're sure. You did not have Logano. Nice try. That's why fun fact of Ash Vandelay's life rules, one of the top 5 is always keep receipts. And not only do I have a stream where you did not say Logano, I also have this posted. Rachel, our producer, she had Reddick, Bell, Larson, and Logano, 2 out of 4. NASCAR, quote unquote, golden diver, had Larson, Bell, Reddick, and Blaney, so the script was not correct. I had 1 out of my 4. I had Blaney, Elliott, Hamlin, and Larson, and womp womp womp. I was 1 out of 4. So very unfortunate for me, but everyone else in our producer circle slash Jess got 2 out of 4. Ash Vandelay got 1. I was very optimistic. I was very hopeful. I would have liked it. So yes, most of you got 2. Jess, who do you have for winning? Let's not say winning Phoenix because that can obviously be different than the champion. Who is your champion? Who is your 2024 NASCAR championship winner?
I was thinking about this before I got on the stream, and part of me was hoping that you would pick first so that it would kind of like help me like pick
Do you
between
want
my
me to
2.
pick first?
Sure, you pick first, and then I'll give you my long answer short, just in case it's different.
I'm stuck between Blaney and Reddick. Those are my
okay.
2. If I had to pick out of those 2, I was like, Blaney has the most. Reddick has. It's just like I go back and if I had to pick from Blaney and Reddick, I'm gonna go Blaney. I'm also a biased Blaney fan, so chat can do with that what they will and just say that it's rigged and blah blah blah. But yeah, I'll go Blaney, but Reddick is my next right after him. How about yours?
Okay. I like that. See, and I'm glad that you said that because I'm stuck between Blaney and Logano. Blaney for the reasons that we've already laid out in this stream, the momentum, the
Logano.
consistency of Phoenix.
I don't know why I said it like that. He won years ago.
Yeah, right. Hello. You act like I just picked. Yeah, come on.
Joey Logano, who's that guy? Never heard of him.
But at the same time, I'm kind of glad that you said that because that's the little bit of the thought process is that you guys remember when Logano won a couple weeks ago and locked himself in? Yeah, like they've been sitting on that for a couple weeks now. And he knows what it takes to go out there at Phoenix and race for a championship. Like he's done this. This isn't new for him. Like he's figured it out. They've had that time to build that foundation. So I think it's almost the opposite. Like it's the Blaney effect of the momentum, the firecracker, the confidence that's coming out of Martinsville and riding that high. And also like the sleeperness of Logano having been able to sit on this information for a couple weeks now. I don't know. I think it could go either way, but I'm kind of stuck between those 2. If I had to make a hard pick, though, I'm going to go with Blaney.
Chat, who you have? Let us know. Omnis says I had Reddick, Larson, Bell, and Byron. I saw Max earlier. You were commenting in here. He said Larson or Bell were in everyone's top 4. Yeah, I think we're all waiting for that. I think Reddick's got it. He's been clutch lately. Reddick winning would be so sweet, says Panda. H-Cats, okay, her local track is Homestead, so she wants Homestead to host every single race. That was her now her thoughts on the Final Four. Blaney, Penske at Phoenix is just too strong, says Baritone. That is
Yeah.
absolutely correct. Byron, says Alexander. Oh, some people want a Willie B win. I like that. Going a little big.
Mm.
Um, Rachel, our producer,
I was just
says, I think Logano, which I
yeah.
like. Some quick lines from Jessie talking about the Goodyear fast facts at Phoenix. While this is not the same tire setup Cups ran at Phoenix earlier in this season, they are all well familiar with the combination of left and right side tires they will run this weekend. Phoenix falls into a group of tracks that are 1 mile and under, giving Goodyear the opportunity to standardize a tire setup and give teams more laps to build up a notebook of how they'll react in race conditions. They can add to that with 3 sets of tires for a 50-minute practice session on Friday. Chat, don't forget to watch. I know we would yap more about Phoenix, but we can do that next week. If Jessie's got to go to Phoenix, so she can give us her full standardized report on it.
And quickly before I go, I saw a couple people asking about my hat. This is the championship hat for this weekend. I'll get like a little closer without weirdly like staring at you in my camera. But this is the championship hat for this weekend, so I'm sure you guys can get them online as well if you want to get the official
Oh,
Phoenix championship race hat. You know, I'm a hat girly, so this is the one. Get it and we can match.
Yeah, I want to match with you. I love that hat.
Please do.
Chat. YouTube says Penske, Byron or Reddick can't choose over either one. Reddick, Byron won Daytona, and to close the season, he will win Phoenix. James says, I don't know who my final four was. I want Byron. Will not be surprised if Logano wins, being an even year. Ross won last year. We all know how well Chevy works together. Willie B might be it. Don't let me whip out my conversion chart again. Truck Series will be 8 p.m. Eastern on FS1. The Xfinity Series Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern on the CW. Don't forget they're in Phoenix, so hence why we're starting a little bit like that. Cup Series Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern on NBC. And again, we will be back next Wednesday. That'll be our last show, but we will talk about Phoenix. We'll talk about the whole year. Me and Jess have some stuff planned. So tune in because that'll be the last time you see us in 2024. You know what? I'll miss the chat. Whether they're nice or not, I'll miss you guys. So me and Jessie want to say goodbye. And we will see you next week at the same time. Wednesday, though, not Thursday. Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Be there or be square because you're not around. Jessie, thanks for your time. NASCAR, thanks for having us chat. Don't do shady things on the radio. Support your local racetracks and support your local establishments. We will see you after Phoenix. Cheers.
Hey, I'm Parker Kligerman, and you're watching the NASCAR Twitch channel. For more content like this, be sure to subscribe to NASCAR on Twitch.
I'm Ryan Flores. Join Kim Kuhn and myself each and every week at Around the Track. We'll get you ready for the upcoming race weekends from short tracks to the Cup Series, whether you'll be attending in person or watching from home.
Coming your way each week is the best bets to win some easy money and driver suggestions to help pump up your fantasy lineups. Around the Track also tells you what to watch for in the NASCAR Regional Series and which young phenom drivers to keep your eye on.
Plus, our At Traction segment gives you all of the fan activities, concerts, and tailgating fun at the track. Be sure to check out Around the Track each and every Wednesday on NASCAR's YouTube channel.
Join Todd Gordon and myself each week for NASCAR Inside the Race. We'll break down exactly how the race was won.
Plus, we'll dive into the data and go in depth on race strategies, penalties, and rule changes.
Catch NASCAR Inside the Race presented by Consumer Cellular each Tuesday on NASCAR's YouTube channel.
Hey guys, I'm Corey the Joy Driver, the number 7 car, joined my buddy Ryan Flores. Every week we stack some pennies. Talk about NASCAR Cup Series right out of my windshield.
Plus, we'll give out the dogs of the week for the best pit crews and pit crew guys from the weekend. We'll break down all the money stops, all the woes, get into some technical issues, and we'll also answer all of your hashtag Penny for Your Thoughts questions.
And we have a ton of guests. Sometimes SVG pops by, we got Raja, we have all sorts of guys. You never know who's going to pop in the Nonsense Garage, but make sure you tune in. SiriusXM on Tuesdays, YouTube on Wednesdays, wherever you find your podcast on Wednesdays as well. Come stack pennies with